Hello again, it's Noob, and what we have here is an ABUS Plus 8850 padlock. This one's actually a cutaway version, although I have to admit it isn't a very good one. I did get it at a very cheap price though, so I'm not too worried about that. Here's the key. Interesting sort of linear bitting on this one, but it reattentions. I think this is an older one of these locks. It reattentions. So there we go, we can get tension on the lock via the key tip, and technically if we had the right pick we could replicate the tip of this key, tension the back of the lock where the actuator is, and then use a picking tip to go up and down the disc pack and pick those. Now I had an idea about modifying the rear tensioning pick you get with these cheap Chinese disc detainer pick sets, and Daz Evers recently did a video where he did just that. He beat me to it, so all credit and respect to the amazing pick maker and picker Daz Evers for doing this first, but it did inspire me then to go and think about doing the same. You can see here that there's a couple of things that we need to think about when making a pick for these ABUS Pluses, the older ones at the very least, is that the tip on these disc detainer picks that you get are just a little bit too big. So a little bit of filing down, that should deal with that. They're profiled. I don't believe that there is a profile disc in this lock, so I don't think I have to worry too much about the groove down the center. So quite often you'd have a profile disc which would be shaped like this little butterfly shape, which would stop you putting in a blunt unshaped pick like this, but clearly that lock doesn't need it. And then we have the picking tip itself, which is incredibly wide and should be thinned down considerably before getting into this lock. I mean, as thin as possible. I'm thinking about 0.5 millimeter or so. Ideally, it would be as thin as the gap between the two discs, which is about 0.5 millimeter or so. That would be ideal. I think I can get away with it being a bit wider if I need to. So I think what I'll go and do is I'll go away and I will grind this down, and we'll see if at the very least we can get it to tension the lock. Whether we get a pick out of it is a whole different matter. Okay, see you in a bit. And here we are. So I have picked this off camera, but hopefully you can see that this is a freely moving plug inside this ABUS Plus. So this pick definitely does work. I do intend to actually pick this lock blind at some point, but until that time, let's just have a look at the full modifications after I did all of that work. And here you go. So hopefully you can see that the tip has been drastically reduced, just down to the same size as the tip of the key itself. Then the actual picking tip here is really, really thin. It's not supposed to be so you can get every single disc in turn, although that helps. It's actually so that when you've set a disc, you can slide it between two discs where the disc spaces are and move it under the next disc and pick that. So you can see that there is here lots of space between the discs, or a little bit of space, and that picking tip is just big enough, or just small enough should I say, to fit between the discs, so where the spaces are. It's a little bit tight, and maybe if I feel brave I could sand it just a little bit more. The other thing I had to do was stick this in a drill and run some sandpaper down the shank here, because this was a little bit too thick for the lock, and it was actually rubbing on the levers and actually turning, sorry, the discs, and actually turning the discs itself. So this needed thinning down. So I started out with a file to rough it up. That's why it looks a little bit misshapen, I guess, and then put it into a drill, and then rubbed some 600 grit up and down until it's a lot smoother, and that's absolutely fine at the moment. So yes, it does work. It absolutely does. Right, let me just go grab, I think I've got another one of these. Let me go grab it and I'll compare the before and after. So I'm rather hoping you don't really need me to tell you which one is the before and which one's the after. Needless to say, this profile, this picking tip here has been thinned down so much, it really has, to under a quarter its original size. The tension tip again has been reduced by about 2/3. I don't know whether you can tell the thickness of the shank here, but I think you can tell it's thinner, probably about 1/2 mil all round. And the only other modification I did, and I don't think I did it on camera for you, so apologies, is I actually took a file, and you can see here, I took a file and just flatted off one side of the wire here, and also one side of, you might not be able to tell, one side of the picking tip, I don't know what bit you want to call it, that bit there, just so that the grub screws can grab a flat side rather than a round side. Just adds a tiny bit more grip to it. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed watching this. Hope you have a go at modifying one of these picks yourself if you have an old ABUS Plus, and hopefully soon we'll have a picking video of me picking the ABUS Plus as well. Alright, see you all next time.